everyone, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the conscious community to create awareness around the holistic approaches that are out there. So I encourage you to tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. I am very pleased to have with us today the beautiful Mikaela Duffy, who is a naturopath among many other skills and talents. So I'm going to hand straight over to her. And what is it that you do? And please introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I feel very privileged to have a chat today. A bit of background about me is that I'm a degree-trained naturopath and nutritionist, originally from the UK, and studied over here back about 20 years ago. I have a very strong interest in herbalism, and which is part of my degree, but I've studied many aspects of traditional herbalism since then. I also offer epigenetic nutrition, which is a way to help women determine the best approach to their food and the timing and the types of food that they should be eating, and also their movement and lifestyle based on measuring the bone structure of their body, which influences their hormones. So I didn't actually say, but my specialist or my strong area of interest is females, not exclusively, but that is my passion. I also have a background as an energy healer, which I did way before I was ever a naturopath. So that always comes into my practice. And I do physical body treatments as well, which incorporates traditional herbalism, using herbs on the skin and on the body, but also very specific abdominal massage, which is super helpful for women's reproductive health, fertility, scars and adhesion work, and digestive issues. And finally, I also offer home visits for new mums as a way to support them in similar ways in those early postpartum weeks, to help them get themselves on track and be in the best place that they can be.
My goodness, there is so much there. Like, there's so many questions that I have just to ask you, just out of what it is that you do. Firstly, though, hormones. Wow, everyone needs to learn more and know more about how to balance and live beautifully in sync with their own hormones. So what got you into sort of that specifically? Was it something you'd been through personally, or?
Yeah, and I think that's often the journey for most practitioners, is that they've had that lived experience. And, you know, as life goes on, and, you know, there might be moments in life that suddenly the penny drops, or there's a shift on some level, then the exploring starts to happen. And I think we can all identify with that for some things. So for me, yes, as a teen going into my periods, you know, I was in the UK, the north of England wasn't necessarily something that was super talked about, you know, and I really suffered with my periods. It was hard for me to function on the days when, you know, especially in those early years. And, you know, the response was, because, you know, my mum, best knowledge that she also had is, well, I suffered too, and so did your nana. So it's like, it's just something that you have to put up with. And, you know, digestive problems, you know, never feeling quite right, and then taking that through into my 20s. But yeah, having huge challenges with my own hormone balance and my periods in general, my PMS time, just led me to really start to explore that and have an interest, and things, you know, fell into my lap. And I remember the first thing that really struck with me was my sister actually bought me a book for my birthday called Body Foods for Women by a nutritionist called Jane Clark in the UK. And she was talking about recipes for PMS, recipes for insomnia. And it was like this aha moment where I was like, so things that go in your mouth actually make a difference to your hormones. And I really didn't know that. And most people don't think about it either. So I think that was the real start of that interest. And then life took me on a journey, and here we are today.
And I love that. We're going to get more into how you got into what you do and that sort of part. But what I'd really love to also talk into before we do that is the herbs. So I absolutely love herbalism as well. How do you weave that in the holistic approach to support hormones and movement and all the things that you're doing?
So plants are incredible beings, and I say beings because they do have a life force, and they are to be interacted with. You know, they are part of our natural world, and every plant has its own quality to offer. And when we start to look at medicinal herbs, that can mean, you know, herbalism that you would think about in, you know, a typical dispensary where you would get those prescribed to you, or it could be teas. It could be that applying herbs to the body, as I mentioned before, in a conscious way. It can also be culinary herbs, the things that you've got in your pantry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they also have medicinal properties, particularly, you know, for helping to improve digestion or move mucus from the body, or help improve immune responses. For example, thyme, it's absolutely brilliant herb. And, you know, just something really simple as making a thyme tea can be a really good preventative for, you know, when cold season comes around. So herbalism is easily accessible when we actually know what to do. And it can sometimes just take a little bit of information for anybody to be able to use herbs in their daily life. It doesn't have to be, you know, this big, you know, prescriptive kind of deal, I guess. It can be something that you can take control of in your own life if you have the information.
Yeah, get curious, listeners. Get curious about herbs. Yeah, and so the thing that I love the most about what you said at the start, apart from the hormones stuff, because everyone needs to concentrate on that, is that you got into what you're doing, but previously had been doing energy work, and now you can weave this into what you're doing, you know, in its entirety. And I'm like, wow, that is powerful right there.
Yeah, and energy can come from the plant medicines too. You know, I don't think I actually answered the question about how hormones are affected by herbs, but there's a lot of herbs that are very specifically able to manipulate herbs in a positive way, you know, in a way that cannot be replicated outside of nature. Plants have a synergy of action. And so even when there's clinical trials done on a plant, they might look at constituents and say, okay, we can see that this constituent has this, let's say, anti-inflammatory action, or it helps to modulate estrogen. But it's not possible to make a drug that works in exactly the same way, because there's so many different elements to that plant. It's alchemy, it's magic, and it cannot literally be replicated.
Yeah, so we just had a little bit of a break in the recording then because our internet dropped out, but Mikaela was talking beautifully about the synergies and beautiful qualities of the plant not being able to be replicated by modern clinical trials.
Yeah, so when there's lots of drugs made from herbs, and that's, you know, how medicine started. You know, for example, aspirin, it's from the salicylic acid from the willow plant. But it doesn't have the same action as the willow, because willow also works in so many other ways on the body. So we can't get close to the plant magic that's available. And when we really, you know, use that plant as an ally, it can help to balance the hormones in all kinds of ways. For example, it might help to support good ovulation. It might help to clear estrogen through the liver, so we have better hormone balance and less breast pain or PMS symptoms or heavy bleeding. It might be rich in iron, which helps to support, you know, the bleeding process of the body too, to help depletion. We might help with increasing progesterone if that part of the cycle is not optimal and causes infertility issues. So there's so many ways that the plants work in synergy with the body, and they often have a modulation action rather than a increase or decrease. And that's something that modern medicine just can't do. You have to choose one or the other, whereas the plant kind of, you know, works with the body and figures out what is needed, which is incredible.
It helps to bring the body back into homeostasis, its natural state.
Exactly. So when it's dosed correctly, yeah, it can be incredibly powerful. And in terms of the energetic aspect of the plants, when I prescribe herbally like that, I'm also thinking about the herbal energetic, and that can be looked at from lots of different aspects, such as if the plant has cold energy or warming energy, if it has moistening or drying actions. So with a plant, for example, a grimini, which is a really nice herb that I use frequently, on an energetic level, it's working for people who tend to put on a happy persona and hide their true feelings and say everything's fine, when, you know, actually that plant will help to gently nudge them. And it's not even something I need to necessarily discuss with anybody, but maybe I will, depending on if it feels appropriate, just to help them to relax and, you know, relax into what they're truly feeling. At the same time as those herbs are working in a really physical way for the ailments that they have come to see me about. So, you know, everything is connected. When we are stuck emotionally, then physically the body will give us those messages. So that's the beauty about working with plants. There's so many layers and so many stories. And traditional herbalists have written books about plant pictures, where, you know, one herb has got a personality and it's very typical to a particular type of person. And sometimes when you meet certain people, they are so strongly, it's like, you're a chamomile, you are a chamomile all over, and I'm going to prescribe you chamomile no matter what. And it's beautiful when you see how it really helps them. So yeah, I find that really fun and exciting about herbs.
I love that. That's completely fascinating. And your complete love for the herbs is like, it gives you such this extensive knowledge that you can even just interact with someone and know exactly what herb they need.
Yeah, if you hear naturopaths talking together, we're really geeky.
That's so good. So how is it that you got into this amazing work? Was there a pivotal point, or it's just been a gradual journey?
I think, you know, getting into energy work in my 20s was definitely a big shift. It woke me up to what's out there, that there's so much more. And then the book from my sister, you know, so just these little key points. And then I came over to Oz traveling with an open mind and just said, maybe I'll just look around and see if there's anything on offer that's something that I could study that I would be interested in. And that was on kind of day one of landing. And by day two, I'd bumped into somebody by coincidence, of course. And after chatting, she told me that she was coming back to study nutrition, because she was also from the UK. Sorry, she was coming to study naturopathy. And I said, what's that? And when she explained it, it's like everything just switched on in my body. And I was like, this is everything I need. And she said, oh, that's cool. Just come back to my place. I'll give you the curriculums for the entire country.
So good.
But she didn't need them anymore. And so I spent that year traveling around and visiting those colleges, so that I got to really kind of weigh up where I wanted to be. So I feel like I was truly called to do this work. And there's been a lot of kind of coincidences like that over the years that have led me, and in all these directions, to study in different ways. And I feel really grateful that I've had the courage to follow that path, even when it's been really difficult. And there's been some huge risks that I've taken in order to do it.
But that's what I was going to say. Is I think it's beautiful that you followed the pull and listened to yourself and are where you are because of that. Yeah. And I remember a conversation we had where you told me about an experience you had where you went to an island and was like a herbal immersion. Are you able to share that with the listeners?
So that was in 2017, and I'd heard about it through another student that I knew in Australia who'd done it previously. So there's a program that runs once a year, and 3 students are invited to go, or approved to go. And we live on a farm on the really tiny island just off the west coast of Scotland. And the guy who owns the farm is a herbal master. He ran the only herbal masters program in the world at one stage, and supervised some really big name herbalists. You want to get geeky. But so now he allows these 3 people to go and stay on the farm for 2 months, and we do this full herbal immersion where we spend every day in the world of plants, and you know, the plants people, and interacting with them. And that means that we go out into nature and we go searching and learn wildcrafting and identifying, you know, particular medicinal plants. We meditate with them, we draw them, we talk to them, we observe them, we do full studies on our particular plant of choosing, we make medicine, and we do all things. It's the ultimate geeky experience.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I've got all these names popping into my head of all these people I know that I hope listen to this, because they would love something like that.
Yeah. They do like a 2-week intensive within that 2 months as well. So we got to meet a lot of other people. So for some people, if 2 months is impossible, then the 2 weeks is really great. And it was a life-changing experience for me, for sure. And that's how I brought in more of that, the stuff that I was really craving that I didn't get from my degree necessarily, that really energetic work and the very traditional herbalism that isn't so much a part of the studies in this country at all. If you meet herbalists in the UK, they are true gardeners. You know, they're in the woolly jumpers and dirty fingernails, and you know, they're making their own medicines, whereas here it's very clinically trained. So I think it's important to have the balance of both. You need the science and you need the grassroots, because that's what gets lost, and that's the stuff that's actually going to save people's nervous systems. The daily practices that they can do, or the things that they can access, and to keep them in a good place.
Yeah, for sure. You've got such a beautiful balance of all the knowledges and all the different things that you've plucked all your knowledge from to bring your delivery, your offering today. And one of the things that I really wanted to ask is, a lot of women that I deal with and a lot of my friends have had issues with fertility. And I know that sometimes, you know, the system hasn't necessarily even worked for them. So I was wondering if you could talk into like the emotional, energetic side of fertility, and if that's something that you help people with.
Yeah, it's a big thing these days, and I think it's getting bigger. Is that because we're getting more and more caught up in the Western living? You know, we're moving faster, we're trying to fit more into our day, we've got more toxins in our environment. Stress is the biggest one of all. But even the parameters have changed. You know, in terms of like 15, 20 years ago, what was considered great sperm count, it's less than halved, and now that's acceptable. So even when things are looking okay for people and they're frustrated because they've had the blood test done, and it's like, well, everyone's telling me I'm fine, but I'm not getting pregnant, and his sperm is fine. It might not be great. It might not be optimum. And I think that's the work that I love to do, is let's really look at this. You know, let's really not just take, yes, it's all good for an answer. I want to see those numbers. I want to talk about what's really going on with you emotionally. And you know, to do something like the abdominal massage is a really deeply nourishing experience, and that can really help the emotional side. Because for anybody going through fertility, whether they're doing it, you know, in a natural way or they're in the system, it's a roller coaster, and it's incredibly stressful. They need to be nurtured and nourished. But with the abdominal massage, it's a more than 2 hour session. It's really nurturing. So it's also working on the nervous system too. You know, I'm bringing in the healing part of things. We're able to, you know, if that person wants to download or cry, it's okay. Like, this is the safe space to do it. And we work really gently in the way that the person feels comfortable, but it's also very therapeutic in the fact that it's really improving the blood flow into the uterus. It's aligning the uterus. You know, a misplaced uterus is also a really common thing and not seen as any kind of issue, when actually, if you think about it, like, the uterus is supposed to be kind of stood up nicely in the body. If it's tipped backwards or even folded, think about what that's doing to the circulation supply. So the blood, the nutrients, the hormone signals might not be getting through in a way that's optimal for that body. So when we really do the deep massage, we're helping to free it up, get circulation in. I do specific movements that can help to tip the uterus or get it back where it needs to be, soften the fascia. There's womb steaming as part of the session if that's desired by the person. It's not something they have to do. We do other things. And also the healing. So, you know, it's practical, but it's also that downtime and that focus on the body that I think is a really important part of fertility as well.
It's like ultimate self-care too, because I myself, like, no one ever rubs your tummy. Like, you don't, like, it was, I do now, I rub essential oils into it, but like I've never in the past have made the time or effort to love that part of my body, you know?
No. And I think the further that women go into a fertility journey, they can start to be, in some cases, a real sense of feeling let down by their body, feeling disappointed, feeling shame, feeling even angry or disconnected, because it all starts to just, it's all in here. It's, you know, looking at numbers, looking at, you know, basal body temperature charts, looking at, you know, ovulation strips, and it's all very, and it's like, actually, we just need to come down and just get in here. And are you okay? Really, are you okay?
On that energetic level, I know, like, sacral and solar plexus is like guilt and shame are the ones that block and stifle that area. So there's a lot of guilt and shame in your mind, thinking into not being able to conceive, or, you know, I'm a woman and this is my natural thing, why can't I do this type? Very deep-seated stuff that isn't addressed by modern medicine at all. So I love that you're doing this so much. So,
and the chakra work is part of that massage, and so it, like, can be flower essences and whatever, you know, feels right. When you use the energy of flowers in a vibrational way, there are flowers that are specific for bringing the light into the uterus, you know, helping welcome that energy in, and or clear the blockages that might be stopping. Some women actually don't believe that they can be underneath, you know, there can be those real fears, even if they're trying and have been trying for a long time. So we're very complex, and I'm not trying to say that I, you know, fix it all, but it's like, it's a place to start. It's a place to just come back to yourself, and then teach you some things you can do it for yourself at home to remind you. It's like, come back to your body and give it some love.
Even just like you said, this is just a doorway in, the seed planted, the, you know, the knowledge that they can take with them. It's amazing. And even just like, I 3 months ago had never heard of womb steaming before, and now it is popping into my awareness so much in so many different areas. And that's one of the parts of the process that you do there.
If it's chosen, no, it's not for everybody. They don't necessarily, you know, want to try. It might feel uncomfortable. You're completely covered. You're wearing a skirt that I provide. There's absolutely no, you know, you actually stay dressed through the massage as well. So, but, you know, it's about you feeling comfortable. So if that's not for you, that's not for you. But I actually really recommend it because it is beautiful. And to use the herbs in that way, where they're actually crossing the mucous membrane barrier and straight into the pelvis, is incredibly powerful.
Even just for people that, this is a conversation I had with someone just on the weekend and the week before, is that even if you're not having babies, just looking after that part of your body can help to, like, support and create new ideas. Like, you birth new ideas into the world.
This is not about fertility, and the thing is, when you use the phrase, you know, to have good fertility, I think it is really important to say that, this is not about having babies, because if you have good fertility, that means your hormones are balanced. And if your hormones are balanced, you are in good health, because that's the first thing to go. So, you know, you can go into then a good menopause. Your bones are protected. Your cardiovascular system is protected. Your mental health is protected, because I'm at menopause age now, and I have a lot of women around me. I'm now attracting lots of menopause women, and they are not okay. They are not doing okay. And that is also something that you don't have to live with. So, you know, it's like, let's get things balanced. Let's get you in touch, because something is out of whack. And whatever that takes will help to get you there.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So that you have given us just the icing of what is, you know, so much depth to what it is that you do. If people were wanting to say, look into the herbalism or the balancing of hormones or any of the things you've mentioned today, what advice would you give them?
Well, look, I'd say that there's different ways to approach if you're interested in learning more. So seeing me in the physical sense is obviously an option if people are in Brisbane, but also online, you know, if you want to approach things that way. I also have online course. I've got one that I've just about finished, and it's going to be launched on my site in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 months.
Oh, fantastic.
Once it's, and that could be a way and in if you know you just wanting to dip your toe in or you're curious to start to learn about these things, because within that course it's all about teaching you how to read your own body signs. Like, it's about really getting back in touch with who you are.
Oh,
So identifying patterns and areas that might need support. So being able to identify your digestive symptoms, and that includes your poop chart and the appearance of your monthly bleed. What does it look like? What color is it? You know, has it got clots? All of these things, there can be, if you can identify that, you and see what the remedy can be, and it can be culinary herbs. I'm talking like really simple, practical stuff, or walking around too much on cold tiles. If you've got really dark bleed with clots, it's cold in the pelvis, you know, learning more about yourself, like how your hormones play a role in altering your mood and energy and your exercise capacity, so that you start to live more cyclically. You understand the seasons of your cycle and your strengths and how to play that in terms of planning your life, planning your diary, planning your work, so that you're getting the best out of your own body.
Oh, yes, that is super powerful.
Yeah. And then, you know, also like home remedies and self-care practices and easy things that you can do for yourself, all the nutrition and how you can manage period pain and which supplements are the right things and what's the actual right dosing and the right forms. And, you know, all these little hacks that I think it's really, I want women to know that stuff.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known that.
Secret business.
No, and it should be accessible. And I wish I'd known that in my 20s. It would have changed my life. But I think so, you know, that's a way for people to be able to do lots of really great groundwork and get on top of maybe lots of things that they might have going on. I also go into the energetics, the sacral chakra, and how that affects hormones too, and you know, little art exercises, and you know, looking at your attitude around your periods, and just all of these ways that we can really start to get in touch. And then if there's still persistent issues afterwards, then at least you can identify you've done like 10 visits worth of stuff just in a course, and you can see what's left that still needs the work. So so I would say my approach is a less is more. I'm definitely not the kind of practitioner who wants to send people out the door with a bag full of products, and that's my bugbear about our industry now. It's changed a lot, and even since I've been out in practice, I'm watching it change and change more. And this is getting more and more clinical and more like the supplements are the answer. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing the physical work and the body work, because there's so much more to it than this.
Yeah.
You know, the answers are not in the bottom of that supplement bottle. They might be helpful, but there's so much more. And I think the more we empower all females, then they pass that on to their
generational. Yeah. Oh, I just got goosies.
That's exactly, it's generational healing. And
I love that.
Almost like my work is generational healing for me, because I'm providing support in a way that I wanted it.
You're a teacher, you're a healer, you're out there spreading the word. And I think, you know, I see and feel that even just by chatting to you and getting more depth to it again is just getting down to the roots of it and the roots of the plant, and being able to be that plant that's able to heal itself and use the support of others around them, you know, to bring themselves into true health.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I think the last piece of advice I would give to all, well, people, but you know, let's say females out there, is don't be told that everything's fine if you know it's not fine. You know, keep searching, get answers, look outside the box, you know, see if there's anything that you're missing. But we know we're our own best experts, and we know when something's off. Don't let somebody tell you that you're fine. There's definitely help out there.
Such good advice, so good. And like, that's what this podcast is all about, is just getting curious and not just accepting that everything is okay, intuitively listening to yourself to get the answers, and then externally.
Exactly. And yeah, even in that course I put a blood test cheat sheet so that, you know, get the copies, have a look. Is it optimal? It might be in range, but that doesn't mean you're great. It means that you're alive. You know, you don't have a physical disease state that can be diagnosed. That doesn't mean you're thriving. So just those tools, I think everybody should have access to them. And that's my goal, is for, you know, us to be empowered and not be afraid to ask the questions.
Thank you for creating something so magical. I can't wait for it to be out.
Thank you. So yeah, I think that the last thing, there's been my little play project recently, is I developed, well, a couple of herbal teas, because I have a tea dispensary in my clinic and I'm always mixing teas for people. But I've done a range of 2 teas and a cacao blend, and they're all focused on, you know, period health, although they're safe for everybody and fine. But my favorite is the cacao blend, because who doesn't like hot chocolate? So it contains shatavari, which in Ayurveda is a beautiful women's herb. It helps to modulate the hormones. It also increases libido. The tagline in Ayurveda is, for the woman with the capacity for 100 husbands.
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, I know. So yeah, she definitely has a reputation for that, but really nice adrenal nourisher and stress support. And then it also contains rose powder and cardamom and ginger and black pepper. And it's
delicious.
Like ceremonial grade Peruvian cacao. So it took me a lot of testing, which was terrible, to get it to the flavor I wanted. But yeah, now I've got that as a product, and I've been getting so much good feedback about how much it's helping with chocolate cravings, or just as an everyday, you know, pep up, and also when the period comes, like for helping with period pain. Because those herbs, like the saying, ginger and cardamom, which are your culinary herbs, they're really good for spasming, so they really help to calm things down, and that goes for your muscles when you tense. So yeah, that's a fun thing that I've got on my site now, and also for sale at the clinics that I practice.
Fantastic. I actually can't wait to try some of that. When you first told me about it, I'm like, so much yes.
It's pretty good.
Awesome. And where are your clinics at the moment that you're operating out of? You said Brisbane.
I'm in Brisbane. So I'm practicing out of Ashgrove in my home clinic. Unfortunately, our house flooded. So I've been really lucky that I've been able to take up extra days at my Paddington place. And that's a beautiful women's collective of healers. It's called the Spirit Space Collective, and it's just in the middle of Paddington. The details are on my website. And then I practice also up at North Lakes, which is where I practiced for many years, and so I'm seeing my regular patients up there once a week. And I practice online, so you know, I have a lot of online clients too.
Yeah, wonderful. I would love to say thank you so, so much for your time today, and all of your knowledge and all that you're doing in the world as the healer, the teacher, and I'm looking forward to this course as well.
Thank you. And also, if anybody did want to make a booking, I was going to say for the whole of April, if you mention that you listen to the podcast, then I'm happy to give a 10% discount on my services.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. All the details will be in the website, which will be below on any of the recordings that you are listening to or watching. So thanks again, Mikaela, and thank you, listeners.
Thank you. It's really nice to chat.
Bye.
Bye.